What's up, y'all? So I was at work earlier and I overheard, two brothers uh, speaking about, the Bible. And, they were pretty much saying that, you know, that, it's wrong for people to try to teach, the Bible to someone else, that if that's what you believe, then, that should be you. You should just do that yourself. Don't try to uh, enforce God's laws on anyone else, if that's not what they believe. So one brother says that, you know, uh, you know, it's okay, just treat each other, with kindness. That's all you need to do, to get the kingdom. Just treat each other with kindness, with respect, love, like the Christian church always say, and you good, That's all you need to do to get the kingdom of heaven. You see? And I didn't interject into that conversation, I was just minding my own business because, something just told me that, just wait this one out. Sometimes, we gotta be wise as serpents, you know. So I'm gonna just wait this one out, and when I, get an opportunity, at a later time, I might bring the subject back up to both of them, or I might just talk to one of them. But my thing is, if you believe, if you say you believe in God, then why wouldn't you do everything that's written in this Bible? It's that's kind of confusing to me. And I guess I always had that spirit in me to obey what's written in this Bible, but for some reason, as black people, as Hispanic people, we never really opened the Bible. You know, some people say, "Yeah, I've read the Bible from front to back," but did you know who the Bible was talking about? Did you know that the Bible is speaking about your people? You see, but a lot of us we don't really understand that. So we're kind of unplugged from the Bible. We don't understand that God was talking to His people. Blacks and Hispanics, Native American people. You see, and we can prove it. You know, but if you say you believe in God, why wouldn't you want to keep everything that's in this Bible? You see, uh, and how can we prove that? How can we prove that God's laws are still relevant today in 2025? You see, let's look at it. Let's go to the Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, because I would like to ask the brother. You know, one of the brothers I've already spoken to, but he's stiff-necked. He loves his sin. The other brother, he's probably been with us maybe a couple months. So, I'm just listening to how he thinks. You know, what should be my game plan when I finally decide to say, "Hey, bro, do you really believe in God?" You know, because a lot of people say I believe in God, but they don't really. How do you believe in God? If you don't keep everything that's written in this book. You see, let's look at it. Let's get out of here real quick. Let's go to the book of Sirach. Go to chapter go to chapter 32, verse 24. It says right here. It says right here. He that believeth in the Lord taketh heed to the commandment. So if we believe, If we say we believe in God, we love God, then we should do everything that's written in this book. You know, everything that's written in this Bible, we should adhere to it. You see, that's how you believe. So, he that believeth in the Lord taketh heed to the commandment, and he that trusted in him, if you trust in the Most High, shall fare never the worse. You see, no matter what happens, you get sick, you get old, World War III kick off, you won't fare never the worse, because the scripture says, don't fear him that kill the body, but fear him that kill the soul. You see, so you will never go wrong if you keep in God's commandments. All right, so let's go back to Deuteronomy, because a lot of people don't believe this book was written by the Most High. Let's go to chapter 28 again, verse 15. It says, "But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, if you will not hearken to this Bible and everything that's written in it, to observe to do all his commandments." You see that? The brother said all you gotta do is show kindness, you know, to one another. It don't matter if you eating pork, you know, it don't matter if you keeping Sabbath holy, you see. But right here it says you should observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses, what it say? All these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. So right here it says, you know, if you don't take heed to my voice and obey all my commandments and statutes, then you're going to have some curses put on you. You see, Moses was speaking to the Israelites. Let's prove that. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 1. It says right here, I'm trying not to make this too long. "These be the words which Moses spake unto all Israel." Moses was speaking to all Israel on this side of Jordan in the wilderness, in the plain over against the Red Sea, between Paran and Tophel and Laban and Hazarah and Dizahab. So Moses was speaking to the Israelites when he read Deuteronomy 28, when he spoke the words that were written here in Deuteronomy 28, chapter 5, verse 15. When he says all these curses are going to come upon the Israelite people. You see? Now, what is one of those curses? What is one of the curses that would happen to us for breaking God's commandments? The same commandments that the Christian church tells you are done away with. Christ fulfilled these laws, so we don't have to do them. But it's written right here in the law that if we don't keep God's commandments, this is what's going to happen. This is the result of not keeping God's commandments. All these curses, to include verse 68. It says, "And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again." It says we're not going to see Egypt again. Not on a large scale as we did when we were dwelling there for 400 years. A lot of apologists like to say, well, Josephus says, the historian says, that some of the Israelites were taken back to Egypt. Yeah, maybe so. Maybe it was 20 or 30 of them. Maybe 1,000. Who knows? but not on the same scale that we left out, you know. It wasn't all of us dwelling there, you see, in large numbers, you see. So it says, we won't see Egypt again, and there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen. So when we got off the slave ships, wherever we went, whether it was Americas, Cuba, London, China, uh, wherever we landed at, you know, we were sold to our enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Meaning, no man is going to redeem you out of your captivity. Because when you go to Leviticus 25, chapter 25, the law is that if your brother is sold into slavery, or if he's working off a debt, to another nation of people, that you were able to redeem that family member, or that Israelite brother, sister. You were able to redeem them, pay off their debt, and they were released out of that debt. You see. So once again, when the apologists say, "Oh, it says right here, no man shall buy you," so that's not talking about blacks and Hispanic people that came on the slave ships. You see, the devil is very cunning. The devil is a liar and a deceiver. That's what the word devil means, deceiver. You see, so I'd like to ask the brother, that, if you believe in God, why wouldn't you keep his commandments when this is a result of not keeping commandments? You see, I'd like to ask him, how did we come over here? How did black people come to this part of the world? You know, were there some of us here? Yes, of course. And that's written in the scriptures too. You see, when you go to First Ezra chapter 13, it tells you how the 10 tribes of Israel came to this side of the world. You see, so it's written that those people that were over here, the Mayans, the Aztecs, Native American people that were dwelling over here, those were Israelites. Those were the 10 tribes that were dwelling over here. You see? So I'd like to ask the brother a question. How did black people come to this side of the world? And, is it written in the Bible? You know, if you don't have faith in this Bible, if you don't believe that these are God's words that's written in this Bible, then, you know, I mean, you either, I don't want to use a bad word, but your intelligence levels is kind of low. Your faith is low. You see, you don't really believe and trust in God if you don't believe this is God's words prophesying how we would come over here on slave ships. You see, so if if God's laws are done away with, if Messiah gave his life on the cross to fulfill the law, then why is this? Why is this? All these curses. Why are all these curses still happening to his people as a result of breaking God's commandments? You see, once again, if God's laws are done away with, if 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 if, if Christ nailed these laws to the cross, why did 70 AD happen? You know, where it says we would fall by the sword and be scattered. You know, we would go into Africa. You see, we would be scattered. We would be taken as captives and scattered all over this globe. You see, all over this flat plane. You know, that's why it's called a planet. You see, because it's plain. It's a plain flat surface. It's not a globe. The white man told you it was a globe. But we knew, our ancestors knew for thousands of years before white men, came into power, that this is a flat surface. You know, see, the sun and the moon goes around in a circuit, and the scriptures tell you that. But that's a different story. That's a different video. But I'd like to ask the brother, if God's laws are done away with, then why did we still come over here on slave ships when Moses said this would be a result, this would be a punishment for breaking the commandments? You see, that's got to be a question that everyone has to answer. All you apologists, y'all need to answer this question. You see, why are we still suffering these curses that are written in this Bible? You see, let's go one more scripture. Deuteronomy 28:32. Who did this happen to? Y'all seen 12 years a slave? Y'all seen Roots? It says, thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people. Who did that happen to? You see, who did this happen to if it wasn't blacks and Hispanic people? You see, Native American people. Your sons and daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand. So this is one of the curses that happened. You seen 12 years a slave. The woman was crying and pleading and begging. They're making transactions to sell this woman's daughter, to another family, another white family, and she's begging and pleading the slave master, and he just shrugged her off. You see, there was no might in her hand to save her daughter. So I'd like to ask the brother these questions. Who do these curses fit? You know, are you sure that we're not supposed to be keeping God's laws? You know, so that's all I'm gonna say for today. That's my rant for today, and I hope that this edifies somebody. And shalom.